Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Business Between Us. I'm Siyonna Okeke, a sophomore business information systems student at the University of Pittsburgh.
And I am Dr. Nkem Okeke, her mom, and a business owner and executive who believes that every great leader should understand a little bit about programming.
So that's why today our episode is about programming essentials, how learning tools like Excel, Tableau, and Python don't just teach us about coding, data mining, and visualization, but it kind of reframes our way of thinking.
Yeah, in the boardroom, in the business room, these same tools are what helps companies to analyze data, to automate the processes, and stay competitive. So let's connect the dots between coding class and corporate reality.
Yes. So let's first talk about why this topic matters, right? Because I feel like with my background, walking into my programming essentials class my last fall semester, I was pretty confident because I had taken a handful of coding classes throughout high school. So I was able to go through the class pretty comfortably. But I was talking with my peers, and I feel like they didn't really have that same background of having learned the process of trial and error when it comes to programming, and they kind of found it hard to relate to it. And they were kind of wondering why are we even learning these topics in the first place.
Interesting. So, in my opinion, I think programming teaches us structure, logic, and patience. These skills that apply in programming we need as professionals every day. So, it's not just about becoming a coder, it's about understanding how technology and AI works so that you can manage more effectively.
And that's why I feel like I've learned to just going through like basic coding exercises and stuff like that. You kind of learn how systems communicate with one another, and that's how basically data moves throughout organizations. And I feel like with this era of artificial intelligence, I think it's really important to have this background knowledge of programming to kind of stay in the loop. But specifically touching on AI, we're gonna dive deeper on that in another episode.
Yeah, we'll do that in another episode, but I just wanted to share with you that I do agree with you because in a recent AI certification at Wharton that I took, I learned that programming is the foundation that enables AI systems to function. While on the other hand, AI is transforming how programming itself is done. So kind of that interchangeable relationship there.
Yeah. So now we're gonna get into the classroom corner and sort of boardroom breakdown
Yeah, well, we're
of these
here.
podcasts. Yes. So with our class, we start off with Excel. So we learned how to use certain formulas, how to make graphs, and use conditional logic to sort of analyze different data we were provided to practice with, whether that would be like mock student exam grades or comparing data from country to country over a span of years, stuff like that. And prior to this course, I'd used Excel, and I feel like other people have gone through this as well in high school when you have to give out a survey, and then after that survey, you would go back into a Google sheet or an Excel sheet, and you just like look at the information that you got and make a graph off of that. Or even
Yeah.
at work with medical links and Bind, I had to take note of student info for a scholarship opportunity that we had and that we were nominating kids for. So I had to like keep note of that through Excel. So this class was kind of like a change in pace. So it was slightly more challenging to go through and like actually clean data and do it loads of times. But I feel like once you learn how to use each of the functions, it made it a little less tedious.
I remember when you were compiling the data for the students that we were nominating for the Posse Foundation,
Yeah.
right? So they could get the full ride scholarships to schools. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the besides that in high school, like I didn't really touch on it before. And that's also kind of the same with Tableau. Like I hadn't really heard of Tableau before going into business school. And we kind of focus on that at the end of the class where we're trying to make the data visual and turn raw information into a dashboard that kind of like told the story of like the data that we received. And it kind of clicked to me that programming isn't necessarily just about like typing like lines of code, but it's also about communicating the data in a way that pretty much anyone could understand. So, how would you say that kind of relates in the boardroom theory?
I mean, before I even get to the boardroom, as you were talking, I was just smiling. So, I completed my fellowship in clinical data analytics at Johns Hopkins Armstrong Institute. So everything you were talking about kind of resonated because that's when I first learned how to use Tableau. I mean, now my team uses more Power BI, is a similar tool, but I think I agree with you that that was the right sequence to learn that with Excel and then getting to Tableau and Power BI because those platforms are really like Excel on steroids. With Excel, you learn the basic stuff, the data collection, being able to organize data. You can also do some data analytics as well, and then leveraging your pivot tables and graphs, pie charts, bar charts, and so on and so forth. But where you have multiple data sources that you need to analyze and aggregate, that's where these data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI come in very handy because you can actually aggregate data sets from different data source and still tell the story, visualize what the data is saying, what the data set relationships are. And this is applicable in the work we do every day so that we're able to help our clients execute on the job as well as we do on our internal projects. So this is the way it works. Every time that you are starting a new project in the business world, you need to be clear about what are your key performance indicators. Like how would I know that I am successful in this business project that I've taken on? And when you identify what those indicators are, you may find out some along the way because the good thing about data is that it teaches you what's going on. But at
Yeah.
least you can be clear that when you're doing a business case of why something is an approach that you're taking with the outcomes that you anticipate to get and the return on investment for investing in that project, it's good to sort of have a way to, I would say, measure at the beginning, measure in the middle, and measure at the end. And that's what data visualization through dashboards can do for you, where you can see almost on a day-to-day basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, annually basis, what the trend is, and be able to make informed decisions in real time as to what to do to adjust to keep making sure that you're on that trajectory to be successful or fail fast. So
Yep.
these are the ways that we apply this on the job. And something else also that Excel helps with is it is actually the backbone of financial reporting. So even though we have accounting platforms, QuickBooks and the likes, Excel is still a very valuable tool that helps with financial reporting, which of course all businesses are about.
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm hearing is just like programming and data collection is not just for the tech or ID department within a company. It's
No.
really for everyone to kind of like
Yes.
make decisions on the day to day. And I feel like if people understood that, they'll be a little bit more inclined to want to get to know more about programming so that they can communicate to other people and understand like where they're getting, how they're portraying the data and how they got there in the first place. And I feel like people should try. I work in the career center at the business school here at Pitt, and we try to tell people to get certified in things like this, like in Excel, Tableau, and things like that, so that when you're putting it on your resume, you don't want to put it and then you get to, a case study in a resume, or you've gotten the job, you've gotten there, and you don't know what you're doing. So I feel like actually going and getting certified in things through Google or LinkedIn Learning, it'll actually help you just feel more confident about what you're doing and that you're not just a fish out of the water when you're, actually in the workplace.
I'm so happy you said that because yes, that's the real world experience where we have
Mm,
folks who have very great looking resumes, they interview very
yeah.
well, but when they start the job, you could see how shallow their understanding is about some of these software applications. And you can fix that. You can get ahead of that.
Yeah.
As you know, and I'm sure that's probably still applicable in your time, but in my time, there's no one class that taught you how to use Excel or how to use Word or how to use PowerPoint and so on and so forth. And of course, the flip side of that is the Google version where you have Google Sheets and so on and so forth. And because of that, you have to apply that self reliance in terms of relying on yourself to know what you need to know. So I'm so happy
Yeah.
that you are working in the Career Center and pointing students to, what they need to not only represent in their resumes, but really need to have in their arsenal and their
Yeah.
toolbox. And knowing these software applications, particularly Excel, is something that pays itself off. And now, mind
Yeah.
you, there's a range, right? There are people who are going to be data scientists, and need to know way more advanced applications of Excel versus those who are probably not, who just need to at least know the basics. But regardless of where you fall in the spectrum, it's still a very, very
It's a
useful.
good tool to have. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I will say is just like I taught myself how to use software, including, believe it or not, Microsoft projects to schedule stuff. It does take time, but the good thing is that there are a lot of training courses out there, particularly with Microsoft itself. They do have a very lovely and well laid out software learning program for each of the applications. And I think self-teaching yourself and being able to engage maybe a teaching assistant in school will help, or if you're on the job already, engaging somebody who is more advanced in that space to kind of just have somebody to bounce ideas off of, even as you practice and learn how to use that tool. So that's a very, very huge point that you bring up, and great work that you're doing, actually.
Yeah. Thank you. So I also want to talk about the third tool that we use within this class. Like I said, we use Excel, we use Tableau, but Python was like a pretty big chunk of it. So basically, Python helped us automate tasks that we're doing more manually in Excel. So instead of spending hours cleaning data with certain functions, we could write a few lines of code and get the same results, but almost instantaneously. So looking back on it now, I'm in a class, database management, and we're using MySQL, and it just all adds up to a bigger picture of understanding. Like the more languages you go through, going through Excel, Python, SQL, so many others, you begin to understand that this is the data that I'm given, that I'm presented with. These numbers or strings, text, they mean something. So how can I make decisions that are informed based off what I'm seeing? So would you say that's more or less the same thing that you have to do in your context, in your business?
I'll be honest to tell you that I'm not the expert at Python, uh, but I would say that executives benefit from understanding code logic, just the logic of it. Like you don't need to write it, but you do need to understand what's possible. Because what you don't want to do as a leader is to be disconnected from reality, right?
Yeah.
So you need to at least understand the logic behind it. And this awareness and knowledge of the leadership team in any organization is what separates reactive leaders from innovative one. Now, again, it's a spectrum. So we have IT companies, tech companies, where this is their bread and butter, which is different from companies like mine that provides healthcare services, but still have these technology and AI applications apply to what we do. We still need to be aware of code logic to be able to know what's possible and what to
Yeah.
invest in, quite frankly. So in my businesses, programming tools are applied everywhere. even if most employees don't even realize it, right? So Excel, for example, I just mentioned it was is used mainly in our financial reporting, but also our basic data collection, importing things from surveys and trying to interpret that further, or merging that data into Tableau or Power BI to have a more comprehensive data visualization of what's going on. And then, in my opinion, Python drives automation behind the scene, right? So which is good to kind of know about, or learn more about. So I'll just say that the experts on my team use Python scripts to pull data from multiple sources, sales systems, the marketing platform, operational dashboards, so that we can make unified reports, which saves us hours every week, definitely makes us more efficient and more productive to support the clients that we do.
Yeah. And I feel like I could say I'm more comfortable with things like this because even before high school, my mom had me on Khan Academy. There was
Yes.
coding classes there. There were coding classes there. I think I was about 9 or 10 years old when she was like, "Oh, we have these modules here. You should start doing that." And I know when I first started, I would always get kind of frustrated when my code didn't work because I'll be missing a semicolon or parenthesis here and there. And it'd be so many times that I would like put it down and be like, oh, I don't want to come back to this. Like, I don't like code. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. And then I feel like through high school, because I was in a coding class, like at least one every single year, it's like I got to see different ones. And then it wasn't up until my, I think, AP Computer Science A class that dealt with Java. And just like, it got to the point where I almost went through a threshold. It was like, okay, this is hard, but I'm gonna be determined in making sure that I figure out like how to do it. And I feel like that's getting started early as soon as you can before you get to that point where like I absolutely do not want to touch it at all. Like trying to just give it a chance because once you just give into it, then I think you'll learn to love it as I have.
It's funny that you say Khan Academy. Like, anyone who knows me know how I am in love with Khan Academy. I think I got you on that when you were like 4, 5 years old, maybe.
Yeah. I
So
think yeah,
I
before I even
do.
got to elementary school. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the coding part came later. But I did have you on it, and it's so funny. And this is a plug-in here. I'm sure there are other good platforms, but Khan Academy for me, I think I was watching CNN one day, and then I saw Sal Khan talking about this with Bill Gates, I believe, and I said, let me check this out. And I think the beauty about it was because I'm a working parent. I wanted to make sure that there was a way that I could figure out how to set you guys, my kids up academically, even in my absence, right? When I'm, coming back late from work or have to be at a meeting or have to travel for work. So I think the Khan Academy was a good way I could do this because once you register as a parent, then you can add your kids on. And this helps because whether I'm there or not, it shows me a report. So I kind of know if they were on Khan Academy or not and what they were doing.
Yeah.
So it would tell me when they logged in, when they logged off, if there was any activity, which is the important part because I'll have them open Khan Academy and open some other gaming thing and they would be
It's
on front of the computer, but what were they doing is the question. And then the other beautiful part of it is having the mastery progression report. So you could see how they were mastering different concepts over time. And even there were, built-in videos that in case the child got stuck trying to get a problem right, they can actually click on that video and watch it and keep going. Really,
yeah.
not prompted by anybody else but their intuition and how they are really progressing in their own paths to mastery. And I think what I also loved about it is I probably had only 20% input the whole time, all these years. And they've sort of used this in many, many ways than I can imagine. Your sister also, who is a co-producer of this show in her 11th grade, She took her SAT last year, and she only used Khan Academy to practice and came up with a 1,400 point, pass point. And I thought like, oh wow, like it really has advanced. But I say all that to say that starting early, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, is important, and there are fun ways to do it. I think the first thing you coded was how to draw a snowman,
Yeah, with
and
like circles and triangles and stuff like that. Yeah.
and just to see that you could with some coding produce this image, I think that sort of woke something up in you, and that's why you fell in love with Java in high school, and here you are now, and doing Python and so on and so forth. So I really think this is a good plug-in in case you have parents who are listening of how to get your kids started in a way that's seamless and goes at their pace, but still give them the foundation regardless of what career path they choose, just to have that foundational beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like really anybody of any age can get started if they really wanted to. I think Khan Academy does offer multiple levels that people can just like, okay, I want to learn how to do this, I want to learn how to do that. You don't have to go through like their whole Rolodex of what they have. But I think if you're in any age and you're curious enough, you set aside time,
Yeah.
you can be able to do it. And I think you have to remember that it's a process. You have to build on it. And like I said, I started when I was technically like at the end of elementary school up until now. So that's almost like a decade of like being exposed to coding. So it's you know that anything you want to truly know how to do, you have to build on it. So just getting started as soon as you can and just keep going at it. Even if you put it down for a little while, just making sure you're coming back and you're being intentional with how you're learning. I think that's really important.
It is. I mean, this has been a great dialogue. So, just to bridge the gap, what can we learn more from both our perspectives? Like, what can we learn more from your
Yeah.
perspective, my
Yeah.
perspective?
I just feel like just in general, programming can change the way you think. I think you're just approaching problems like step by step, like how you're debugging code, you can like almost debug life if you think about it. Like if you're in a team project, you don't just give it up. You keep working at it and working at it. So I feel like if people saw it less of a means to an end, but more about kind of training your brain to think more critically and be a problem solver and not giving up when you're getting stuck. I think more people would actually like fall in love with it just for the fun of it, really.
You had me at debugging life. I mean, that's a hashtag. Hashtag debug life. Using Python. It's true though. The logical thinking that comes with programming, it teaches us how to apply that learning far beyond what's on the screen, what seems more apparent. And when managing a business, I think you're constantly thinking about how things are interconnected operationally, and how to make it all work, the input, the transformation, the output. And I think that programming, from all we have discussed, builds resilience,
Yeah, definitely.
because you learn that failure isn't final, which is what programming also entails, but it's feedback that you use to make it better and better. So I really think that resilience is something that teaches, which is huge and very important in the line of business, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely true. Just turning like the logic of coding into logic of so many other things like leadership. Like if something doesn't work, you don't have to be so quick to panic. You can just troubleshoot. It's like, okay, this didn't work. Let's move on to this thing. This didn't work. Let's move on to this thing. And just like you're constantly changing, which is like what we should all be hoping to do is evolving with each thing or each conflict that we come across.
Absolutely. So, as we come to the end of this, we'd love to hear from our listeners. What's a programming or tech tool that's changed the way you work or think? And what is your takeaway based on our dialogue?
Yes. So if you'd like to, reach out to us, let us know what you were thinking. Send your responses to at the business between us on Instagram or email us at thebusinessbetweenus@gmail.com. So if you love to write code or use Excel, or you're more apprehensive to using those more technical tools, we love to hear your stories. So just again, send those at the business between us on Instagram or the email, the business between us at gmail.com.
And if you're an executive and you want to share with us what you're thinking in terms of this evolution of AI and how it now has pretty much become important in all we do, mostly on the job and in our businesses, we will also like to hear from you.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this episode, I will ask you, Siyonna, just tell us, what's your one key takeaway?
I would say programming isn't just about syntax and seeing like numbers and letters on a screen. It's more about, structure, logic, and also creativity if you think about it like all at once. And it kind of allows you to have a deeper understanding of your workplace environment kind of outside of your particular discipline or even deeper within your discipline.
And for me, my key takeaway out and honestly builds off of what you just said is in the business world, understanding how technology and AI works gives you power. It gives you power to make smarter decisions, faster decisions, and more informed decisions.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our topic for today. So next time we'll be kind of switching gears to economics, exploring micro and macroeconomics and kind of the market of the mind and how our financial systems kind of shape our society. So,
I
yeah,
can't wait for that one. That's one of my favorites. Well, thank you all for joining us. And this is the end of this episode of The Business Between Us. And until next time, take
we'll
care.
see you.
See
Bye.
you.